Hello, this is Eric Michael Loyd, a master's in psychology, neuropsychology concentration. I want to talk about this book that I just heard of, How to Be an Anti-Racist. This one's by Ibram M Kendi. The first part I'll read is actually from bookrags.com. It kind of gives the cliff notes of each chapter so that you can get a bite-sized piece of this book and see what the author has to say about the topic. Summary. In the introduction, Kendi recalls competing an oratorical contest in high school. During his speech, Kendi called out other black youths for being unambitious and for having a higher incidence level of teen pregnancy. In retrospect, he realizes his speech was a product of internalized racism. He goes on to explain his concept of anti-racism. If to be racist is to believe that some people are inferior because of their race, to be not racist is simply a neutral state of passivity, where to be an anti-racist is to believe that all people are equal and to be actively working to dismantle institutional and pervasive racism. Chapter 1, Definitions, Kendi recalls the way his parents met in 1970, how they both attended a Christian festival at the University of Illinois, traveling separately from New York to listen to the black activist Tom Skinner speak. Chapters 4 through 3 through 7, Summary. In Chapter 4, Biology, Kendi recalls his third grade class at a different school than the one he visited with the black teacher. His white teacher rarely called on students of color, usually ignoring their raised hands in favor of the white students. He remembers one particular day when a black student raised her hand, failed to be called on, and lowered it dejectedly. He refers to this and similar mild acts of racism as microaggressions. After this happened, the class attended church service, and when it was over, Kendi refused to leave his pew. The principal was called, and he complained about the racist teacher. The situation improved marginally afterwards. Kendi then explains that people often believe there are biological differences between the races. That black people are, for instance, less intelligent and more physically gifted than white people. Chapters 8 through 11 summary. Chapter 8, Behavior, is a continuation of the topics introduced in the Body chapter, as Kendi establishes that just as the black body is not inherently more aggressive and threatening, the black mind is not inherently inferior. Once again, he notes that ideas about this supposed inferiority can be traced back to slavery, which black people were characterized by traders and masters with traits like hypersexuality, immorality, criminality, and laziness. Kendi recalls his personal struggles with academics, barely making C's and D's in high school. He discusses the racial biases of standardized tests and recalls attending a prep class for the GRE in college. This class was not so much about reviewing specific material that would be on the exam, but about acquiring the skills needed to succeed on a standardized test. He then flashes back to the orator contest he won. Chapter 12 through 15 summary. In Chapter 12, Class, Kendi recalls moving to Philadelphia to attend graduate school at Temple University. He moved into the Hunting Park neighborhood, a poor region of the city with a high crime rate. He admits he felt living in the ghetto would be an authenticating experience. He goes on to explain that race and class are distinct but connected concepts, and that poor black people are more likely to be viewed as a monolithic group and viewed as lazy or unambitious. Historically, he explains, capitalism and racism are conjoined twins. intertwined through slavery. Capitalism began with the transatlantic slave trade, and continues to operate as a system defined by racial inequities and heavily exploitative. In pursuing authenticity by living in Hunting Park, Kendi was validating the class racist idea that poor black people are inherently more black than middle or upper class. That would be the blacker than thou perspective. This is chapter 16 through 18 summary. In chapter 16, Failure, Kendi recalls conducting a meeting of the Black Student Union, BSU, at Temple, and planning a protest intended to free the Jena Six black teenagers from Jena, Louisiana, who were being charged with attempted murder for beating up a white teenager in retaliation for an onslaught of racist antagonism. Kendi had conceived of an elaborate protest involving blocking off Constitution Avenue in Washington, D.C., with a caravan of cars. Other BSU members were rightly worried about being arrested, and Kendi was frustrated with their unwillingness to commit. In retrospect, he sees this situation as a personal failure because he did not listen to their concerns. He uses this experience as a springboard to discuss how anti-racists must learn from the failures of history. In particular, respectability, or what Kendi calls suasion, the idea that black people can change. He also talks about different sections: important people, objects, places, themes, styles, quotes, and topics for discussion. Let's go with some of the themes. End on that note. Anti-racism. Kendi's primary project in this book is explaining the concept of anti-racism and suggesting how readers and society might move toward instituting anti-racist policies to create a more fair and equitable world. He differentiates anti-racism from the less proactive idea of being simply not racist by stating the opposite of racist isn't not racist, it's anti-racist. One endorses either the idea of a racial hierarchy as a racist or racial equality as an anti-racist. One either allows inequities to persevere as a racist or confronts racial inequities as an anti-racist. In other words, if a person claims to not be racist but does not believe that we live in a racist society, or does not actively fight to eliminate racism, that person, however well-meaning they might be, is perpetuating racism. So that is part of the themes section of bookrags.com, and I'll leave that to the rest of anyone who wants to talk about that book, How to Be Antiracist, by Ibram X Kendi, and let me know what you think. Thank you.